No7. The ground shook and his bones clattered. They stood behind cover, out of the villain's sight. Uraraka was murmuring something to herself, her body tense. Izuku didn't watch her, just kept his eye on the villain. Who was yelling for Uraraka's head. The villain's eye was swollen shut, as she did a number on his face. Uraraka swiped at the blood on her forehead. He didn't know where she was hurt, but blood kept dripping into her eyes. He turned back to the villain. The ground trembled as he stomped around. He rethought about what they knew. His quirk was called Cyclops. He had the abilities of a Cyclops from ancient times. He was tall, strong, and could withstand fire and other attacks. But his face was a vulnerable point, just like in the stories. Uraraka figured out his blind spot and hid it. He called himself Polyphemus, another nod to the myths. She turned to look at him. Deku, do you have a plan? She asked. I got the guy pretty good in the eye, but now he's pretty pissed. We need to subdue him before the cops get here. Yukio is taking care of the villain behind us, so this is up to us. He nodded. His face is his weak point, right? All we need is power and a distraction. Her face lit up with understanding, but her eyes stormed. She didn't like where he was going with his plan, and he didn't blame her. I need you to get him in the face again, and then I want you to float him. All. Distract him. I'll signal you when ready. He. He wasn't planning on just distracting him. He hoped he didn't need to get Uraraka involved again. Polyphemus would try to kill her. Deku. Come on, Uraraka. We have to do this. And we have to do it before he causes any more destruction. Deku, I don't like this. He's fast, what if he hurts you? It was sweet she worried, but it kind of hurt she doubted his abilities. He may be fast, but I'm faster. I just hope this works. She sighed, brown eyes flickering over to the beast of a man, howling murder for a teenager. Her eyes hardened, she clenched her hands into fists. Let's do this. Ready. He nodded. Ready. Using both her quirk and her grappling hook, she pulled herself up to the rooftops, where she would lie in wait and get together what she needed. He really hoped she knew his signal. Then again he hoped he didn't have to use it. Breathing in, he called upon one for all. He felt the power surge through his body as his eyes flashed open. Using the power, he jumped from one destroyed part of the street to another. Polyphemus left such damage that the cracks ran deep enough to trap and maim. He had to be careful. Polyphemus spotted him and roared. Ah, so I see there are two little heroes. He stomped his feet. Izuku paused against a piece of the street that was at a 60-degree angle. His eyes flicked across the villain. He needed his attack to be quick and swift. What Polyphemus said next threw Izuku's plan out the window. Is that girl too scared to fight me? He mocked. Izuku's stomach boiled with rage. No one mocked Uraraka. No one. Polyphemus continued on. I guess I'll have to settle with squishing you and drinking your blood like fine wine, Polyphemus said, squatting. You are outmatched, little hero. One of us is outmatched and it isn't me, he replied, eyes narrowing. At first it was to keep her safe. At first it was to save what couldn't be saved. Promoted stories. You'll also like. Convicted Hearts 4090 like my other story but ILI longer. Free. Oni Shots 150K3K. This is a collections of free. X readers. Requests on this are now closed. Ohm Fluke a day 112K 8.2 kilo amperes. Collection of short Om Fluko for 365 days. Please check the second book for the rest of the day's update. Much needed love. Yandere Succubus Momo X Izu. 52.5k 834 after Wattpad. Had decided to delete this story out of nowhere. I and many reader were distraught. So I'm making a remake of the story from the ground up to compensate. Mirko X Shy Male Reader 176k 1.1 key. Don't own MHA. I hope you enjoy the story I made. The hero who sings with a smile 39.9k 370 high. Guys, this is my first story I write on Wattpad. I hope you like it. Finished. 28.6k 508 tilde he save all of them just a smile plastered on his face before disappearing through the wind. Now it was personal. Polyphemus let out a laugh. It bellowed through the empty street. A cocky hero it seems. All too bad that it will be your downfall. I like em when they fight back. Izuku bared his teeth. He wouldn't charge, he'd get himself killed. So he would wait. It didn't take long for Polyphemus to charge. When he did, Izuku tensed. His eyes scanned the charging man, and things seemed to move slower. The ground shook when he stepped, his face pulled back in an ugly expression of hate. His eyes burned, but his mouth was pulled up in a gruesome smile. His clothes were baggy, but he could see the outline of something in Polyphemus's pocket. Izuku had no time to dwell on it. He jumped out of the way as Polyphemus barreled past. He used the villain's head as a launchpad, staying in the air as Polyphemus recovered. Izuku landed hard, gritting his teeth as his bones shook. His eyes darted up to the roof of a collapsing building. Uraraka peeked over, expression grim. Izuku nodded at her, before turning back to fight at hand. Polyphemus stared at him with such hate it made Izuku's knees knock together. You son of a bitch, Polyphemus spat. Izuku's eyes narrowed. His anger grew, like flames. Polyphemus charged. Izuku didn't dodge this time. He met the threat head on first. Polyphemus insulted Uraraka. That was enraging enough. But he drew the line at insulting his mother. Polyphemus punched. Izuku did his best to block. Small palms stopping huge fists. Gritting teeth, sweat. It smelled so bad. Izuku did. Polyphemus did. Polyphemus smelled like sweat, stale air, rotten meat. And his breath was the worst. Izuku regretted getting so close. Granted, he didn't smell like daisies either. Izuku punched. Polyphemus countered. They were moving so quickly, his eyes couldn't keep track of it all. Everything was a blur. Finally, Izuku was blown away by Polyphemus's punch. He slammed into a rock, letting out a strangled scream as he felt his ribs snap. That was his first mistake. Uraraka yelled in anger from the roof. He wanted to yell, scream, no please no. She launched herself off the roof, eyes bright with such anger. She plummeted to the ground, using her quirk at the last moment. Blood trickled down from her forehead, her hands were cut up from the rocks but her brown eyes glowed, her lips pulled into a sneer. Polyphemus laughed. Finally, she arrives. Thank you, Poseidon, for giving me this gift. I shall kill her, and I will dedicate her skull to you, he yelled at the sky. He stopped trying to open his swollen eye, fully embracing the look of a cyclops. Izuku's chest spiked with panic. He tried to move, but every time he did, he felt his rib brush his skin. He fell back with gritted teeth. It hurt to breathe, hurt to see her like this. Fighting where he failed, but all he could do was watch. Uraraka narrowed her eyes, bringing her hands together, not bothering to reply. She launched herself away as the debris she gathered fell like meteorites. With a boom and a blinding flash, Polyphemus disappeared behind a wall of smoke and dirt. Izuku closed his eyes, getting to his feet. He did not care about the pain. His chest and body screamed at him to stop, but he stood. Uraraka looked over the stone she brought down from the heavens, a little spark of pride shining in her eyes. When the smoke cleared, the pride extinguished. Polyphemus stood laughing. "You'll have to do better than that, little girl," he yelled. "The gods have blessed me with such power, and I shall use it to bring about your death," he said, his tone lashing like a whip. Uraraka tensed, ready for her beating. But Polyphemus turned to Izuku. And in his hands was a gun. Everything slowed. Uraraka's expression changing from anger, to confusion, to panic. Polyphemus just smiled. The action slow, blinding. There was no time to react. With a squeeze, Izuku saw a little red bullet shooting his way, and he wasn't fast enough to get out of its way. He just stood, shaking. He raised a hand, ready to blast it away with his own counterattack. Uraraka let out a mangled scream, launching herself at him. As she did, he turned. Her eyes were filled with fear. "Uraraka, no. Stay away. Please," he begged. She ignored him, wrapping her arms around him, taking him down. The action made him launch his Air Force counter. Her arms untangled, blood spurting from her mouth as the air punched her stomach. All he did was move her in the direction of the attack. He let out a wail, reaching out to grab her. The bullet pierced her skin. She let out a whimper. Izuku saw red. He grabbed her body. They fell to the ground. He wasn't fast enough. Uraraka shielded his body with hers, taking the brunt of the impact herself. Her weight fell with a crack. He felt his power come back as his anger boiled over. Uraraka smiled, stroking his face, before her eyes rolled to the back of her head and she passed out. Blood trickled from her mouth. Blood fell from the wound from her head. Into her eyes. She was hurt because of him. Trying to save him. Polyphemus laughed. "Uraraka, wake up!" Izuku yelled, shaking her shoulders gently. Tears sprouted in his eyes, falling down his face. "Get up," he begged softly. "You need to get up." She didn't. Polyphemus kept laughing. Izuku stood. His chest hurt. His hands bled. His blood trickled down his fingers and fell to the ground. His eyes glowed. "You're gonna pay for that," he whispered. He summoned his strength. He would beat this foe. This villain would not beat them. He would beat him. For her. With a strangled yell he flew at the villain. They clashed midway, Izuku striking his face over and over and over again. Polyphemus kicked him away. He kept coming. His ribs snapped more, his head pounded, he tasted iron. But he kept fighting. Uraraka let out a small moan from behind him. He could barely see through his tears. Could barely feel through his anger. Using one for all, he launched himself into the air, crashing down. As he did so, he brought his leg down on Polyphemus's head, driving the villain through the ground. He would beat this villain. Any means possible. Polyphemus gagged on his blood, splattering it on Izuku's face. It mixed with Uraraka's. She saved him. She sacrificed herself for him. And this man laughed. His blood didn't deserve to be around hers. He swiped it away. Polyphemus's head lagged. He was out cold. But it didn't slow Izuku's anger. Yukio found them soon after. Izuku hunched over the half-buried villain, and Uraraka's lifeless body lay a few feet behind them. He didn't know if she was dead. He couldn't see her, his vision blurred. His chest hurt. He hurt everywhere. He didn't know if she was breathing. Izuku let out a broken cry, falling to the ground. He couldn't move much. All he saw were paramedics gathering Uraraka up, and the sound of a siren. He looked up at the sky. He saw smoke. Gray. But through it all, hints of blue. The world twisted, it tilted. Then everything went black. Tilde 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 tilde. He woke up in a familiar place, Recovery Girl's office. He sat up and winced. Recovery Girl glared at him from where she was helping Uraraka. He froze. She was still knocked out. Her forehead glowed with sweat. She was covered in bandages, her hands, arms, head. Uraraka, he said. It came out a wheeze. He moved to go to her side. Recovery Girl just sighed, shooting him a stern look. Stay in bed, Midoriya. You'll open your stitches. Stitches. She turned away. He looked at his palms. There were also some on his stomach and chest. He looked back at Uraraka. Is she? Fever. Infected wounds. Scrapes on her hands. Broken ribs. Bullet wound. Guilt bared its ugly head, its teeth sinking into his body. He let out a small gasp. He did that to her. That was his fault. Recovery Girl kept going. And something, off. I can't place it, but something is missing. She broke only 2 of her ribs, sprained her leg, and overused her quirk. You didn't fare much better. They found you collapsed over the body of a villain, I hear. You reckless boy. He turned away. Did I? Guilt's fangs seeped deeper into his skin. Kill him. No, you held back at the last moment. Not something I would like to see, boy. I don't know what pushed you over the edge, but I believe it has to do with her. Will she be okay? She'll be just fine. It'll take her a bit to recover since I can't use my quirk on her just yet. She needs to wake up. You had to go through surgery, did a number on your poor ribs. He kept his eyes away from Uraraka. She got hurt protecting him. She got shot protecting him. But she'll be okay. She'll be just fine. Everything would go back to normal. Recovery Girl stood. She watched him with careful eyes. I'll leave you too. I need to go yell. Talk to All Might. She walked off. He never noticed. His eyes just drifted back to Uraraka. He watched her chest move as she breathed, how her eyes flickered under her eyelids. How pale she was. Her normally rosy cheeks had paled to the point of barely being visible. He shifted off the bed, stumbling over to the stool left empty. His hands shook, his wounds ached. He ignored it all, collapsing into the chair. He trembled, grasping the sheets she lay on until his knuckles turned white. I don't know why you did it, he whispered. I don't know why you jumped in front of the bullet. I don't know why you even stayed. He was crying again. You saved me, again. You keep saving me. I can't. I'm so weak. I'm pathetic. My best friend. She keeps. He buried his face in the sheets. They smelled like her. Like her perfume, her shampoo, and her lotion. Like strawberries and vanilla. He stayed like that for who knows how long. He might have dozed off, might not have. All he knew was what seemed like forever later. He could feel someone stroking his hair. Soft hands, and little giggles. He bolted into an upright position. His chest didn't hurt as much anymore. But he didn't care about that. Uraraka was awake. She was smiling at him, the rose coloring coming back to her face. You dork, she said with a giggle. Welcome back to the land of the living. You're awake, he whispered. Yeah. Hi. She waved. He teared up again. Deku. You're awake, he wailed, leaping over to wrap her up in a hug. She let out a squeak, before hugging him back. He silently cried into her shoulder, thanking whoever gave her back to him. Deku, what's wrong? She asked as he let her go. He rubbed his eyes. She looked at him, pressing her fingers together. Deku, I'm fine. You just scared me there. I did. I'm so sorry. Don't apologize. You saved me, he said, getting to his feet. She jumped, eyes widening. He opened his mouth, ready to apologize for startling her. Then she started to laugh. Apologies died on his lips. I just saw you were in danger and jumped. I didn't do much. He grasped her hand. Her eyes widened again, face flushing a sweet pink. You saved me, Uraraka, that's something. And how did I repay you? I hurt you. She blinked, looking at their clasped hands. You didn't mean to hurt me, I know you. You never could. It was my fault. I jumped in front of your hands. But she shushed him gently. Did nothing wrong. It was an accident. But you saved me. He looked at his hands, then back at her. She grabbed his other hand, before letting herself smile. That smile. That freaking smile. It starts off slow, like a sun rising over a city. Then it grows and grows, lighting up her face, lighting up him. She was like the sun. People took her for granted, ignored all she did for them, but she still remained. She stayed strong and constant. That smile of hers, it gave him hope. I did. You did. She looked away, fiddling with the sheets. He let go of her hands, feeling the lack of warmth immediately. He wanted it back, but instead he just sat back down. Good. You're safe then, you self-sacrificing dummy. Her eyes met his again, there was a fire in them. You weren't planning to give a signal, were you? He opened and closed his mouth. I was. But then, I couldn't. He insulted you. He didn't mention his mom, that would just make her mad, too. And I couldn't stand by while he did that. He was out for your blood, too. I couldn't. I didn't want to. She narrowed her eyes. Deku, I am a second-year hero in training at UA. High school. I can handle myself. I know. But I didn't want to risk it, I didn't. I don't want to see you hurt. If you did. You got hurt because of me, and I. Shush. Deku, I did it of my own free will. Don't blame yourself. Besides, you handled that guy pretty good. He looked back at her, she pumped her fist and was laughing. Did. Yes, you dumb, you. I hear you beat him real good. Like bam bam wham, she said, miming punches. He laughed, setting his hands back down on the bed. Don't hurt yourself, she giggled. Always the worrier. He smiled. You give me a lot to worry about. Her smile grew sad. You do that to me, you know. I know. And she squeezed his hand. But I'm gonna be here to get your silly butt out of trouble. Whatever it takes, even as pros. I'll still be there to save you, she said with another one of her sunrise smiles. How did he get so lucky? To have her as a friend. As a best friend. He smiled to himself. Okay. She smiled back. Okay. Tilde 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 tilde. Things after that battle remained a little off. He couldn't place it, so he just ignored it and poured himself back into class. He was still behind. Like really behind. He and Iida had frequent study sessions. Uraraka also poured herself into her classwork, so they didn't talk as much, but she would still eat lunch with him from time to time. Now in class they were sparring with one another. He got teamed up against Mineta. While he didn't quite like the little guy, he felt bad for him. It was a pretty easy win and he felt really bad after the countdown he sent the guy flying into a fake rock. It had to hurt. Uraraka got teamed up against Jiro, and that's what he was watching. Ready, set, begin. All Might yelled. Uraraka ran from Jiro, taking in her terrain. She kept an eye on her opponent, both of them working the land around them to their advantage. He watched Uraraka carefully, ignoring the cheers and chatter of his classmates. Uraraka reached loose terrain and smirked. Izuku felt his chest swell with pride for her. She was smart when it came to working her surroundings to her advantage. He knew from experience. Who knew the mats they used in the gym could hurt so much? She tapped the rock once. He watched, ready to see it float. Nothing. Her expression fell a degree, before she tapped the rock again with more vigor. Still nothing. She frowned, tapping her fingers together, tapping herself, tapping anything around her. Nothing happened. No one else seemed to notice it. They were focused on what Jiro was doing. She was ready to attack. Uraraka ignored the glaring problem and just went to Jiro with other plans in mind. At least, he hoped she had plans in mind. Uraraka ran at Jiro, dodging her headphone jacks. But Uraraka could not dodge forever, and he didn't want to see what happened when she stopped. She hid behind a rock, counting the seconds, mouthing each one. She then leapt out from behind it, and he watched as Jiro drew back her headphone jacks, and was wide open. Of course. Timing. Uraraka ran at the girl, hands outstretched. Jiro reached for her, jacks flying. Uraraka grabbed the girl's arm and threw her to the ground. Gunhead martial arts. She pinned Jiro's arm behind her back, holding her down. Jiro struggled, jacks flying. Uraraka's face got sliced by one, but she didn't lessen her grip. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. A bell rang clear. Uraraka won the first round of the exercise. She stood, smiling, before she helped Jiro back up. They chatted as they walked back to the room where the rest of the class was, both laughing and smiling. All the losers of the exercise stood by to watch as the winners did round 2, the final round. He did pretty well, paired against Kaminari. Even so, Izuku lost. Kaminari put up a heck of a fight. He got scraped up quite a bit, and then Kaminari shocked him. Izuku's already messy hair standing on end. He and the electric boy had a good laugh about that. Uraraka got paired up against Shoji. An interesting matchup yet again. She went at him with gunhead martial arts. And she lost. Horribly. She got close enough to float him, and when she tapped his back, it didn't work. Nothing happened. Shoji felt the touch and trapped her. She struggled to get loose, even trying her quirk again, but nothing worked. Shoji's brows furrowed with his confusion. Normally, Uraraka was very agile and able to get out of tight situations like that. All she had to do was use her quirk. But she didn't. She couldn't. She entered the room again, hiding her pain of defeat with laughter and jokes. She poked fun at herself for losing, much to Izuku's dismay. He went over to talk to her as All Might congratulated the winners of the exercise. Hey, you okay? He asked. She looked up at him from where she was staring at her fingertips. She hid her hands behind her back, putting on a smile. Oh yeah, I'm totally fine. Just wanted the chance to try out gunhead martial arts again. It worked, before Shoji. But that's okay. At least I tried, huh? She said, grinning. Her smile, it didn't reach her eyes. Odd. Hey yeah, I lost against Kaminari. But it was fun at least. I'm glad we're finally catching up to the rest of the class. Yeah, she pumped her fist, still smiling. He smiled back, slow at first. Something was off with her, and he didn't know what. You know what? I'm gonna go congratulate Kami for beating the great powerful Deku, she joked. He gasped in mock hurt, making her giggle. Why would you do that? Rubbing salt in the wound of my defeat, I do say. He said, faking swooning. She laughed harder, little snorts sneaking their way through her laughter. Oh great and powerful Deku, how does it feel to lose? She asked through her laughter. He flicked the tip of her nose, stilling her giggles. Something that isn't gonna happen often, he whispered. She stared up at him. He offered her an awkward smile. She returned it with one of her sunrise ones. But even that one didn't quite reach her eyes. I'm gonna talk to All Might about my defeat, see if there's anything I can do, she said after a moment. She didn't make a move to go, and neither did he. They just stood in their little world, close together. Oh, okay, he replied. She nodded, pushing him away with one hand. He didn't move to argue with her. She turned away, her hair covering her face. Thank you, she whispered, walking away. All he did was watch her. Watch her walk away. He turned around, going to talk with Iida. But he glanced behind at her. Tilde 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 tilde. Something was wrong with Uraraka. Something was very wrong. She wouldn't smile. She worked herself too hard. She didn't eat, she didn't talk much, she skipped on the class's movie nights. She even passed on a girl's day at the mall. He was starting to panic. What happened to her? When he asked, all she did was wave him off. Say she wasn't feeling well. It was a headache, she needed to study, she was busy, she had to get new clothes. Anything. He knew she was lying to him. And it hurt. It was dinner. She was training alone. Skipping another meal. He stared down at the soup Iida had taken such pride in. It wasn't incredibly good, but his friend tried and he would give Iida credit for it. He glanced at the door to their little workout room. He couldn't hear anything, but he knew Uraraka was inside. Yo, Midoriya, you okay, bro? Kirishima asked. His head snapped up. Huh? You spaced out there. You good? Izuku looked back at his suit, seeing himself in the reflection. Yeah, I'm fine. Just tired. Been training all day. Kirishima nodded with understanding, going back to his meal. Izuku didn't pick his spoon back up, just stared into the soup bowl. With another moment he pushed himself out from the table. I'm gonna bring something for Uraraka. She hasn't come out for dinner. Iida looked up from where he was eating. Ah, of course. She's training hard. A little bit too hard if you ask me. Too much work, not enough self-care. I'll grab her a great helping. Iida said, standing and going into the kitchen to get her a bowl. Izuku winced internally. Uraraka was in for a taste bud trip. Iida brought out a soup bowl, some rice, and a roll for her along with some water. Izuku thanked him and went to give the food to Uraraka. The closer he got to the door, the louder the quiet grunting became. He knocked tentatively, the noise stopped. She opened the door. Her hair was plastered to her face with sweat, her normal bob was pulled up into a small ponytail. The tiny voice in the back of his head piped up. She's so cute. He bit his cheek to keep himself from blushing. She blinked in surprise when she saw him. Deku, I brought you dinner. You didn't come out to eat and I started getting worried, he admitted. She smiled. Oh, thanks Deku. That was sweet of you. Must have forgotten to come out, didn't notice the time. She took the tray from his hands. Can I train with you for a bit? He asked. She blanched. Sure. It didn't sound like she wanted him there, which, admittedly, stung a bit. She let him in, nibbling on the bread roll. Okay, so training in his pajamas wasn't his smartest idea ever, but he'd be damned if he didn't try to see what was up with Uraraka. She sat on a bench, eating her dinner while he ran on the treadmill. He just listened for any sign of conversation, anything, from her. All he got was sounds of her tearing the bread apart. Finally, she stood, abandoning her dinner. She went to the punching bag, wrapping the tape around her knuckles again. She cracked her neck, plugging in her earbuds. She warmed up a bit, him watching her out of the corner of his eye. Right left, right left. She kept punching. Then she was kicking. Then it was a mix of both. The bag swung with each hit. Her expression was one of pure anger. With each punch her ferocity grew. With a small crack she stopped punching. She stood, breathing heavily. Finally she took her earbuds out, and joined him on the neighboring treadmill. What makes you want to train now? She asked after a moment of them running together. Wanted to check on you. Oh, she quirked an eyebrow. What makes you think I need checking up on? You've been worrying me. I have. Yeah, Uraraka, are you okay? And I want that answer honestly. I, I don't know. I'm tired, Deku. I'm tired, I'm confused, and I'm scared. Because of Polyphemus, she didn't reply. That was his answer. He let the issue drop. They ran in silence, keeping pace with one another. Uraraka stopped after a little while, going back to beating on the poor punching bag. She hit it until she grit her teeth in pain, and practiced gunhead martial arts by herself after that. He stopped running and was pretending to lift weights, watching her form. She grunted, holding her head. He set the weights down. She blinked the pain away, getting ready to practice again. Something stopped her. Raka, he asked. She grit her teeth, holding her stomach. Gotta keep going, she muttered, trying to right herself. Uraraka, head held high, she glanced at him. Then a look of helplessness flickered through her gaze before she collapsed. He let out a yell, her name most likely. His ears started ringing. He bolted to his feet, and in a flash was by her side. She was out cold, head lolling around the ground. Her eyes were squeezed shut, like she was in pain. His eyes drifted over to the food he brought her, long cold she only ate the bread. His hurt glance fell back on her. She overworked herself. Her knuckles were bleeding, her head probably hurt, there were bags under her eyes, and her lips were chapped. He scooped her up, he had to get her back to her room. She was going to kill him later, that thought made him smile for a moment. It fell just as quickly. He pushed open the door, her head falling back over his arm. He shifted, holding her closer. I'm sorry, he whispered to her, walking out of their exercise room. Ishido saw them first, teasing on her lips. Then her eyes widened when Uraraka's head lolled. Ocha, she yelled, standing up, her chair screeched, falling back. The girl ran to him, worry passing through her mouth. He didn't hear any of it, as the world slowed. Yaoyorozu and Isusu stood next. We'll take her from here, Yaoyorozu murmured. He didn't want to give her to the girls. He wanted to take care of her himself. It was his fault she was in this mess. He should have watched her better, made sure she was eating. But he handed her over. Carefully. Yaoyorozu took her with care, shifting slightly with the added weight of Uraraka. Jiro and Hagakure followed, leaving the guys alone at the table. He sat back down, and he kept glancing up at the stairs. What was up with her? Tilda tilde 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 tilde. He lay awake, just staring at the ceiling. He could hear soft music coming from Aoyama's room, but it did nothing to stop his mind from wandering. He kept wondering if Uraraka was okay, if the girls got her to her room all right. If she was eating all right, and sleeping well. He turned over on his side. Other than the music, the night was quiet. He turned again, kicking his blankets off, then when he got cold he pulled them back to his shoulders. It was quiet, it was peaceful, he should be sleeping. Finally, he kicked his blankets off for good, and stood. He pushed himself off the bed, and went to his balcony. He stood, watching what little sky he could see, enjoying the breeze he could feel. His eyes dropped to his hands, the hands he hated, the hands he loved, the hands of a hero. He got new scars, some on his arm, a bunch on his chest, new ones on his legs. He curled his fingers into a fist. Sometimes, he wondered how lucky of an individual he was. And how soon would his luck run out? He didn't like thinking about it, because sometimes it felt like his luck was all dried up. He looked away from his hands, the breeze continuing to ruffle his hair. He wondered how late it was, and how much later it was going to get. The stars glittered like salt on a black tablecloth. Uraraka loved the stars. One day, she was so excited for a small meteor shower. It happened over break, most of their classmates were at home. He wasn't, since his mom was visiting a friend and was out of town. He talked to his mom on the phone a lot, but it was just him and Uraraka over break. He would be lying if he said he didn't like the idea of being alone with her. Deku Deku. He looked up from where he was making dinner. Uraraka. He asked, spoon frozen midair from where he was making ramen for dinner. They didn't have many ingredients to make something homemade, and it was late. Most stores were closed by then. So when he stumbled upon Kaminari's ramen, angels seemed to sing. Her eyes flicked to what he was making. Ooh, Kami's ramen. Yeah, I made some for you, too. Didn't know if you had food. Aw, that's so sweet, Deku. I'd love some. Here, it's almost done. Can you help me set the table? Sure, she said, bouncing on the balls of her feet. She flirted around the kitchen, grabbing chopsticks, bowls and glasses. She filled the glasses with water, and skipped out into the commons. She skipped. He laughed, filling the bowls with dinner and went out to sit with her. They ate in silence for a bit. So what are you all excited for tonight? He asked, finishing off his bowl. Her eyes lit up and she practically vibrated in her seat as she bounced. There's a meteor shower tonight. Right overhead. Really? Yeah. I came down here to ask if you wanted to watch them with me, she said, pointer finger pads touching. If you want. I'm okay if you just wanna go to bed. I'd love that, he said with a grin. Her eyes widened, and her grin with it, really. He nodded. She stood, grabbing his hand and pulling him to his feet. She dragged him along, both of them running up the stairs and giggling. He didn't even care they'd have to do dishes in the morning. She pushed open the door to the roof, her viewing area spread out. She had blankets and pillows from the closet laid out and strewn around. A couple thermos and cups, snacks, sweets, a telescope, a camera and more. She even took a radio from downstairs and it was playing soft music. Do you like it? She asked. It's so cute, he said. I love it, she giggled. Come on, I made hot chocolate. Yum, he said, laughter seeping into his voice. With their hands laced together, she took him to the sweets and snacks. From there he made a fool of himself, throwing treats into the air and trying to catch them in his mouth. He failed. But hearing her laughter and her snorts sneaking through was worth it. They told stories, listened to music, and laughed. They laughed so much he wondered if he would ever talk without laughter again. She was telling a story about the constellations. He didn't really listen. He was too busy looking at her. Her hair was pulled back, her eyes were bright, she was animated. She was beautiful. Suddenly, she stopped talking. Her smile came back. It's starting, she whispered excitedly. He looked up to see the stars flashing across the sky. They lit up the world in a silver glow, Uraraka included. Her eyes illuminated with little stars in her excitement. The minutes passing felt like seconds, and after a bit of silence she looked back at him. A new song started to play from the radio. Dance with me, she asked. He blinked. I can't dance. You know this. She giggled, pushing loose strands of hair back behind her ear. Yeah, but you can still try. He sighed, smiling. Only Uraraka could get him to dance. Sure, only if you're dancing. You know it. He helped her up, the music picking up. Her face was flushed, her grin ever prominent. Her hips bopped to the music, their hands intertwined. Just watching her laugh and have fun made his self-consciousness just float away. She seemed to glow, the meteors being reflected in her eyes. They shook their shoulders, back and forth, laughing. It all moved so fast, yet, so slow. Like in that moment they were in a safe little bubble. It was just them and the stars above. She twirled, stumbling into him. He caught her, both of them laughing. He helped her back up, her grabbing his hands and spinning him around. Then her. Then both of them at the same time. That night was filled with laughter, stars and silver in her brown eyes. When he went to bed, he dreamt about those eyes. Just thinking about that night made him smile. Uraraka was happy. It made him happy. He wondered if she was doing okay. She was probably asleep. Would it hurt to check on her? It couldn't. He pushed away from the railing. He should bring water just in case she was awake. He made his way downstairs to get her a glass of water. It was so quiet and dark. He slammed his knee against a table, spewing muttered curses as he fumbled his way through the dark and into the kitchen. He used one for all as a light when he got water and made his way up the stairs. His knee was probably gonna bruise, and he didn't want to spill the water. He jogged up the stairs. God, there were so many stairs, but he didn't want to risk the elevator. Finally he came to her door. He paused to catch his breath, but a sound made his eyes flick open. Crying. His eyebrows crinkled. He looked at the door. It was slightly ajar. He inched closer. Was it rude to open the door unannounced? But what if she was hurt? He decided to keep outside the door and listen for a moment longer. The daughter cries made him want to barge, and they broke his heart really. They made his eyes widen in surprise, his chest constrict, his body itching to hold her. Her cries were so quiet. Every now and then a choked sob left her mouth, and with each one the burn in his stomach grew. He knocked on the door. Uraraka. He whispered. The crying slowed. Sniffles. I'm coming in, he said softly. He pushed the door and recoiled. Her room was illuminated in a soft glow with glow in the dark stickers and a nightlight. And with it was Uraraka on the ground. He rushed forward, but stopped when she held out a hand. And no, she whispered. Not any see closer. Why? I don't want you to see me like this, she murmured. He fell to his knees, water splashing on the ground. They didn't notice. He set the glass down. What happened? He asked. She looked away from him, tears streaming down her face. Uraraka. It's nothing, she murmured. Just had a dizzy spell. I'm fine. Doing what? Her pursed lips was his answer. Uraraka training, with how you are. I'm not weak, Deku. She snapped. He flinched, her eyes flickered away. I'm not. I can't. I know you're not weak. All I'm saying is you need to take care of yourself. Her brows furrowed, her knuckles whitened. I need to work harder. Faster. I need to be stronger. You need to rest, you need to take care of yourself, you need to eat. That will make you stronger. She let out a pained laugh. I need more than that to be stronger. Deku. I need to work harder. Even harder. Things are going to be. I can't. They'll. They're tough, I know. Tougher. They're gonna be so much tougher. Her tears were like little stars, glittering in the dim lighting as they fell. For me, they're worse. I'm not strong like you. What do you mean? I know with your quirk things are tough, but so are you. Tears slipped down her face. With my quirk, huh? So when you asked what was wrong, you mentioned him. So Deku, remember Polyphemus? She whispered. He nodded. She looked back at him, her fake smile breaking. Tears clung to her eyelashes. Well, apparently he talked to Shigaraki. His eyes widened. Where are you taking this? She held out her hands. He looked at them, confused. They looked normal. It hit him. They looked normal. Where were her finger pads? He stared harder, and made out the faint outline of what used to be pale pink pads. What used to be in place of fingerprints. It was just smooth, pale skin, with nothing else. She barked out a laugh, it dissolved into tears. Well, that wasn't an ordinary bullet, was it? No. He whispered. It can't. It won't. What? You noticed, she accused. I know you have. I watched you, I know you. You absorb everything, you understand what happens. You watched me not be able to use my quirk. You knew. You knew, you just denied it like me. And not like this. No, never like this. I. His voice cracked. She looked away. You and I both know Uravity was a dream. Looking back, it was silly of me, she whispered. To dream so big, to hope so much. Something like this was bound to happen. I'm not destined to be a hero. I'm destined to live a life in poverty. I can't help anyone, let alone my parents, she sobbed. It didn't have to, this didn't need to happen. She looked back at him, he inched closer. No, it shouldn't have. It should have been me. Deku. No, it had to be me. But no, you saved me. Again. He was crying. She was stricken. I should be quirkless. Not you. I should bear it again. Not you. She let out a strangled sob, crawling to him. You dummy. You idiot. She cried. I did it to protect you. I did it of my own free will. I would do it again in a heartbeat. She smacked his chest lightly, scrubbing the tears away from her face. Even if this happened again. Even if I can't be a hero. No, I would. She was close to him. He could reach out and brush her tears away if he wanted. And he did. I would, I would, I would, I would. She howled, burying her face in her hands. I would, I would, I would. All over again. To protect you, she whispered. Why? Why can't you let me bear my own burden? He asked. Why do you have to bear it with me? Why do you have to keep saving me? He whispered. Because I'm your friend. You keep saving me, and I would do it again. What if I want to save you? What if I do it to make sure you're safe? At the end of the day, that's what I want to do. That's why I want to be a hero. To save people, to help them, to save and help you. Deku, you can't change this. I'll be okay. Is it permanent? I don't know, she admitted. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. That's okay. No number, it really isn't. Deku, please. No, you will listen to me. I don't want you getting hurt over me, not again. She cupped his face in her hands. She smiled. Deku, I do it because I care about you. There's no other reason. Not some self-sacrificial motivation, but because I care about you. He drew her into a hug. She let out a small squeak that made his stomach do weird things. You lost your quirk. Because of me. Her arms slowly bundled around him. I know. But I did it to save you. She was sobbing again. I hate it. I do, but for you, I'd die. Why? Why would you go that far? You are an idiot, she murmured. She buried her face in the crook of his neck. His skin erupted in goosebumps, her breathing was soft. He ran a hand through her hair. I know, he said, a dark chuckle sneaking into his voice. She smiled weakly, it fell into quiet again before he spoke. Why, though? She unburied her face to look at him. His skin grew cold. Why would you die for me? Why would you protect me? Why would you have me here? She looked away, fingers stretching and curling up. It's complicated. Her eyes met his. There was strength growing in them. I want you to stay. Stay with me. It's so selfish of me, but you wouldn't understand how this feels. I need you to stay. I need to protect you. But it hurts. I need someone. I need you, Deku. I know. I know you don't understand. You don't understand how much it hurts. Her voice cracked again. I lived my whole life with my quirk. And now that it's gone, I feel everything is crashing down. She swiped at her tears. But you wouldn't understand, would you? I do, he whispered. Her head snapped up, her arms circled around his neck. His arms were now loosely wrapped around her waist. I understand. As a kid, I didn't have a quirk. I'm a late bloomer. I was a good kid. I worked hard, I dreamed big, I smiled. I was kind as I could have been. Where was my karma, right? I tried so hard, I was friendly, and all I got was nothing. I grew up quirkless, I grew up bullied. I worked my ass off to get here, and even then I was mocked. When I did get a quirk, it was unbelievable. I doubted it was real. It had to be a dream. Nothing good like that should happen to a quirkless loser like me. Tears swelled in her eyes, they clung to her eyelashes. When she blinked, they spilled down her cheeks. She lurched forward in another hug, knocking him over. Tears fell from his eyes, she sobbed into his chest. Deku, you idiot, she wailed softly. You deserve all the good in the world and more. You work hard, you're Deku. He lay on the ground of her room, staring at the ceiling, wondering how did he get so lucky? To know a girl like her. To be saved by her. To hold her while she cried. He looked back at her, pushing them off the ground, her clinging onto him like he was her lifeline. How could a quirkless nobody like him have the best thing in the world? Uraraka Ochako's friendship. Uraraka, you know, I'd do the same for you. She looked at him. I'd die for you. She blinked, more tears clinging to her lashes fell. I know, she hiccuped. And that's what scares me. Sometimes heroism isn't what the world would think. Sometimes it isn't fighting villains, saving a damsel, having powers. Sometimes it was holding your best friend at 3:10 in the morning as her sobs filled the night. Sometimes it was crying with your best friend, holding one another like the world was going to end. Sometimes it was knowing you would lay down your life for them, and embracing the idea with open arms. Her wails were quiet and broken. His arms started to shake, and he kept murmuring the same things over and over. She'd be okay. It'll all be okay. After a while, Uraraka started speaking again. Hey, Deku, can you do something for me? She asked, pulling away a bit. He stared at her, confused. Her eyes were puffy and red, nose looking more like a cherry. But brown were silver, and cheeks were red. Yes, close your eyes, please. He did what she asked, confused on what she was asking for. There were a few things he noticed in the time of silence and dark. Uraraka's breath smelled good, like her toothpaste. Mint, and maybe something else. She smelled just as he remembered in Recovery Girl's office. Vanilla. Her touch was soft, voice a murmur. Everything changed after a short moment. Her nose brushed his, he titled his head. Then oh so softly her lips touched his. She tasted like strawberries. It was soft, and it was brief. But it did its job and made him lean in for another. Their noses bumped as his eyes were still closed, but she let out a small giggle. He smiled. She wrapped her arms around his neck, pulling him closer. They fell softly to the ground, him pressing her body into the floor, her holding him close. They were clumsy, their teeth knocked together. Her knee bumped him a little too high, but they laughed. The room smelled like her candles, cinnamon and some sort of wintry spice. She tasted like salt and strawberries. Her lips were a little rough after being chapped and bitten. Her hair was like tangled silk under his fingers. It fell around the floor around them, bundled under a touch. Her hands were soft, slightly calloused after so much training and work. She buried them in his hair, drawing him back down to her. He let out a small noise as she tugged on his hair. She laughed. Like that, huh? He let out a small hiss, smiling. Shut up. She brushed her thumb over his lower lip. Gladly. Was he being used as a distraction? Or was there something more to it? He knew fear was a factor. He could feel her desperation through her kisses. Through her eyes. He was being used as a distraction. But so was she. They could both be selfish in that moment. It was okay to be, once in a while. Sometimes, he didn't want to be good. Sometimes he wanted to be selfish and hope. Hope was a fragile thing, always fleeting. He cradled her head in his hands. Her hands were on his cheeks. She squished them, giggling. He smiled, kissing her again. Can you stay? She whispered. He pulled back. The night. Can you stay? He kissed her forehead. It's against the rules. She yawned. That hasn't stopped you before. He smiled against her skin. Maybe for a little bit, then I have to go back to my room. Deku, will you still be there in the morning? What do you mean? Of course I will. I mean, will you be the same? Will you be my Deku, or someone different? Will this night be a dream? Or will we just ignore it? I don't want to ignore it if that's what you're asking. She smiled, settling into the crook of his arm. Good, she said with a small yawn. Stay, a little while, she murmured, eyes closing. Okay. He waited until she seemed to be asleep, before he picked her up. Her eyes fluttered as he did so, and he made sure he was extra careful with her. Please stay, she whispered, face pressing into his chest. He made a split-second decision, before setting her into the sheets. Her hand slipped down his arm, before stopping to hold his hand. He blinked, and she tugged. He fell forward, barely missing crushing her again. You Uraraka. Stay, you dummy, she said, eyes opening. It's okay. What if we get caught? She giggled, snuggling into his chest. We won't. She was drifting off. He smiled, kissing her forehead. Stay, until I fall asleep. Fine, okay. His arms settled around her waist, her head tucked under his chin. Her hair tickled his skin, making him smile. She tucked herself against him, they fit together like puzzle pieces. Perfect by themselves, but even better once they connected. He wasn't going to stay the night, he knew that and was sure she did too. It was one of the only rules he'd follow strictly. The very idea of her cuddling with him made his cheeks heat up and his heart race. Him staying the night might make him combust. So he waited for the lines on her forehead to smooth out, and for her body to relax. Quietly and slowly he untangled her hands and pushed back her bangs. She let out a little mutter. He heard his name. He smiled a soft sad smile and pressed another soft kiss to her skin. She murmured something else, turning over. His heart squeezed in his chest. She was amazing. She deserved the world. She smiled in her sleep, murmuring more. He was wrong before. She wasn't like the sun. No, she was like the moon. Serene, strong, beautiful. Harsh, yet lovely. She had her moments, but so did everyone, and so did the moon. The moon changed, so did she. Her smile seemed to make the stars in her eyes brighter. She was a constant. She was strong. She was beautiful. She was Uravati. He turned, grabbing the water he brought for her, long since forgotten, and placed it on her table. He looked around the room, making sure he wasn't leaving anything. With that, he made his way out of her room, closing the door behind him. He would make sure Uravati wasn't some silly dream. Because to him she wasn't. To him it was the dream of his best friend, his crush, Ochako Uraraka. He would make Uravati a reality. Whatever it took. She was his hero. She was always saving him. Now it was his turn to save her. Where stories live. Discover now.